Hello there, my name is Hydo and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're digging into something and I think it's yawning at me. That's a bit weird. Oh, it's a portal, and Durnan of the Yawning portal seems to be the barkeeper of it. I've no idea, but it's a cool commander. So whenever it attacks, look at the top 4 cards in my library. You may exile a creature card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may cast it. That spell has Undaunted, so it costs 1 less to cast for each opponent you have. So we're playing commander, generally we're going to have 3 opponents. You could go more than that, but be prepared to play a game for about 20 hours. And you can choose a background. So when you're building this deck, you can choose a background, a legendary enchantment to go along with this Durnan fellow. And, you know, you get to combine them together. And so today I'm going to make a Gruul deck. And I think this is the one that comes with him in the precon. He's a passionate archaeologist. He just loves digging. 2 mana for a background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever you cast a spell from exile, this creature deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So there's a couple of interesting things you could do with that. Maybe you could give Durnan Infect. Something like that. Or potentially this is just, you know, a little chip damage that we're going to have. And that's the direction I'd really go with this. This is like a added little bonus that we sort of might build around slightly. So please subscribe to my channel. Come join me for many, many more videos like this. Got tons more legendary creatures to look at, so come along for the journey. And without further ado, let's have a look at my top 5 for Durnan, the Durian man. In at number 5, we've got Foundry Inspector. Now, Undaunted makes things cost 3 less, roughly. So, this section I'm really focusing on things that we get to cast for free. So I'd go for an artifact sort of theme build. And with that, Foundry Inspector is fantastic because obviously not all spells are going to be Undaunted, but we can help by making our artifacts cost less as well. 3 mana for a Foundry Inspector. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and it's a 3/2, so potentially it casts us nothing and then reduces all of our other artifacts, like Scrap Trawler, a 3 mana 3/2 construct. So when it ends, it or another artifact you control is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value. So this is really, really good with things like Mind Stone or Hedron Archive. You can keep churning through your deck, keep drawing, stuff like that, or just good with all the other 3 mana sort of creatures that we're going to be playing, like Salvager of Ruin. 3 mana 2/1 construct, sacrifice it, choose target permanent card in your graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, return it to your hand. Really, really nice. Rebuys you maybe your most important creature, or most important maybe planeswalker, thing like that. This is great, just controls the board. Well, it controls the graveyard anyway. Speaking of the graveyard, we've got the Scrapyard Recombiner. 3 mana 0/0 with modular 2, so it enters battlefield 2 1/1 counts on it. When it dies, put those 1/1 counts on it to target artifact creature. The synergies just keep interlocking to create wonderful decks. Then we can tap it to sacrifice an artifact, search your library for a construct card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. So there we go, getting us a nice construct that we can cast potentially. Maybe the Foundry Inspector, which is of course a construct, but then you could have a Clockwork Fox. 3 mana 3/2 Fox. When it leaves the battlefield, you draw 2 cards and each opponent draws a card. Those 2 cards for us are very important. You know, we can help our opponents. Maybe they won't kill us. Make a deal with them, something like that. But water. A really good card to see. A nice little fox. Then we got the Brass Secretary. 3 mana 2/1. Pay 2. Sacrifice it. Draw a card. Not all impressive, but it's something that you can get for free, and it helps the artifact theme that I want to go for here. Then we've got the Palladian Mirror. 3 mana 2/2, taps for 2 colorless, sorry. So there we go, another great card. And these are all free casting costs, and they come out before Durnan. So we can play them early, then if we get something off Durnan, we can cast it off that. So that's the direction I'd like to take this build. Gruul artifact stuff. There we go. And that brings me on to number 4. And at number 4, we've got Hypocrisite. So this is more looking at the background we've chosen, casting things from exile. 2 mana for a 1/1 construct. Oh my god, the Scrapyard Recombiner can go and get it. It enters the battlefield with 3 1/1 counts on it if you didn't cast it from your hand. Interesting. When it dies, exile it with 3 time counters on it, and it gains suspend. So suspend, it goes into exile. Then each upkeep you remove a counter from it, and then when the final one's removed, you cast it from exile. There you go. So our little enchantment thing is going to go bing, 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 and ping things into oblivion. Then we've got a Tali Primal Storm, just a general good exile caster here. 6 mana, 6/6. So if we undaunt this, it's just 3 mana. Ooh. And when it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. Then you may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. Now, I've seen it reveal 4 lands, and the person revealing them was obviously incredibly sad. But this is just so much value, and you're going to get tons of free spells off it. So most definitely worth the include. Then we've got Ignite the Future, an interesting sorcery. 4 mana, exile the top 3 cards of your library. Till the end of your next turn, you may play those cards, although you do have to pay the mana. However, if you flash this back for 8 mana, if the spell was cast from your graveyard, you may play those cards this way without paying their mana cost. Ooh, that's really, really good, isn't it? Free casting is incredible, and we're casting these from exile, so ping, 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 going to be firing off on all cylinders. Then, if we're casting things from exile, we've got the Nalfashni. It's a 6 mana 4/6 flyer. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. If a permanent spell was copied, it gains haste, and at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this permanent. Absolutely fantastic. Potentially we could get a free Atali or something, although it is legendary. But this is great for just casting anything from exile, especially these cards that are just coming up, like Rousing Refrain. This is very similar to Hypocrisite. It has suspend, and when we cast it, it goes back into exile, and then we cast it again from suspend. 5 mana sorcery, add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Till end of turn, you don't lose mana as you steps and phases end, exile with 3 time counters on. So if you wanted to build a very big deck, using the Undaunted to cast massive creatures, this is a wonderful spell to cast because you're getting so much mana from it. And then you're doing it over and over again for free and pinging things for 5. Oh. Then we've got Venture Forth, a ramp spell, again from, I think it was this set. Sorcery, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a land card. Put the card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Exile it with 3 time counters on it. And suspend for 2 mana, 3 suspend counters. Now, the poor thing about this is you don't choose the land. So if you're missing, one of your colours, it might not help you, which is a massive negative against it. But it just works so well. 4 damage every time you cast it. Fantastic. And then speaking of tons of damage from exile, Greater Gargadon is amazing. 10 mana, 9/7 with suspend 10 for a single red. So you exile it for a single red. Sacrifice an artifact, creature, or land. Remove a time counter from it. Activate only if Greater Gargadon is suspended. So say you want to get some of our artifacts into the graveyard, or Scrapyard Recombiner or something. This can end up causing tons of headaches. And when things come off of suspend, creatures specifically, they gain haste. So we'll have a 9/7 flying in as well as the 10 damage we're flinging around. Really cool collection of cards that work with casting from exile. Which takes me on to number 3. This number 3 doesn't look like a number 3. It looks like a mess. But anyway, let's have a look at what we've got. We've got unblockability, because our commander's ability to look at the top 4, it requires him to attack. So if we're attacking, well, we better make sure we get in there. Key to the City, 2 mana for an artifact. Tap and discard a card. Up to 1 target creature can't be blocked this turn. That's not too bad. We'll just discard a useless card in our hand and then dig deep to get an Undaunted card. And whenever it becomes untapped, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Ooh, that's pretty goddamn good, isn't it? Drawing cards, always incredible. And this just helps dig through the deck. Unblockability, it does it all. Then we've got some hot soup. Soupy Norman. That's a terrible Irish accent. Look up Soupy Norman, it's hilarious. 1 mana for an equipment. Quick creature can't be blocked. Whenever a quick creature is dealt damage, destroy it, by God. Yes, we don't want our commander to die, but allowing us to get in for just, 1 mana and then 3 to equip, really, really powerful stuff. So is Prowler's Helm. 2 mana for an equipment, a quick creature can't be blocked, except by walls. Those pesky walls, they're always getting in the way. Equip for 2, so a good way of just chipping in over and over again. Very good. Then we've got a Suspicious Bookcase. Is there something behind it? Why, yes, death. 2 mana for a 0/4 defender, pay 3 and tap. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. It is a lot of mana each turn, 3 mana, but it's worth it to get those Undaunted triggers. Because guess what? Undaunted means we reduce the cost of something by 3. Oh, yes. Then, Manifold Key is a great sort of a mana rock. I do consider it a mana rock if you're playing a lot of Artifact Ramp. Remember to play a lot of Artifact Ramp if you're playing this. 1 mana for an artifact, pay 1 and tap it to untap another target artifact. So we're playing a lot of artifact creatures, but this really comes into its own if we're tapping, a card like Hedron Archive, I guess. No, ones that tap for 3. God, what are they? I don't know. But anything, do you know what I mean? Anyway, cards that tap for a lot of mana. Anyway, pay 3 and tap to target creature can't be blocked this turn. Hey, works at everywhere. Terrence. I'm falling to pieces. Glaring Spotlight, 1 mana, artifact. Creatures your opponents control with hexproof can be the targets of spells or abilities you control as though they didn't have hexproof. Oh my God. Then you can pay 3 and sacrifice it. Creatures you control gain hexproof until end of turn and are unblockable this turn. This is really good if we're constantly buying back artifacts and things like that, because sacrifice it, attack in with everything. They gain hexproof, so it negates some removal spell. Perfect card here. And here we go, a land that works well with our commander. Taps for a generic access tunnel. Pay 3 and tap it. Target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. Hey, just get in there with Durnan, the Durnan master. So there you go, unblockability with this commander. Always quite good. Which takes me on to number 2. And at number 2, we've got Scarecrow and ways of rebuying those artifact creatures. And this costs 3, so if we undaunt it, it's free. Hey. So, 3 mana. What does he get us? A 1/2. Ooh. Pay 1, sacrifice a Scarecrow, draw a card. So, worst comes to worst, it can sacrifice itself. Recycled, the best mechanic ever printed. Pay 4 and tap it. Return target artifact creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now that is what this section is all about. Rebuying the artifacts that we've used and getting some fantastic value back. Similarly, we've got Duretti, Scrap Savant, Sweaty Duretti. 4 mana, 3 loyalty Planeswalker. Discard 2 cards. Discard up to 2 cards. Draw that many cards. It's a nice plus there. -2, sacrifice an artifact. If you do, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that could rebuy some massive artifact threat. And then -10, you get Emblem with. Whenever an artifact is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. Works wonderfully with all the sacrifice shenanigans we've got going on. Speaking of sacrificing, Goblin Welder is exactly the sort of card you want in this deck. 1 red for a 1/1 Goblin Artificer. Tap, choose a target artifact or a player controls a target artifact card in that player's graveyard. Now, you will mostly be using your own, but you can use it on your opponents, really mess with their ramp. If both targets are still legal as the ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. So you do a little switcheroo. So really good for rebuying some magnificent metal monstrosity while we're sacrificing a treasure token or something like that. And then Scrap Welder, a great new card from the latest Kamigawa set. 3 mana, 3/3 Goblin Artificer. Potentially just 1 red if we undaunt it. Ooh. Tap, sacrifice an artifact with mana value X. Return target artifact card with mana value X. With mana value less than X from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until end of turn. Nice little bonus there. Nice little haste. Attack in. You're dead. So there we go. Rebuying the artifacts that we've been using. Nice little selection there. And that takes me on to number 1. A nice thick one there. And at number 1, we've got extra combat steps because our commander cares about attacking. And Karlach, Fury of Avernus, is exactly what we want. She's got a big sort of hammery thing as well. 5 mana, 5/4 Tiefling Barbarian. Whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until end of turn. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Hey! So there we go. First strike is fantastic, and the extra combat step is wonderful. And I've placed her at the top because it doesn't have to be this card that's actually attacking. You just play it, attack with a creature, and you get the effect. It's wonderful. Port Raiser is one that needs to attack though, but double red and 3, so we undaunt it. That's 2 red there. Oh, that's it. Orc Pirate, and when it deals combat damage to a player, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. It can't attack a player has already attacked this turn. So the undaunted aspect of this deck, we want 3 opponents, and having 3 opponents for this guy means we're going to get tons of combats because we can attack one, then the other, then the other. Oh, you're all dead. Really, really good card. Then we got the Combat Celebrant. 3 mana, 4/1, 1 red if we undaunt it, by Jove. If it hasn't been exerted this turn, you may exert it as it attacks, which means it won't untap during your next untap step. When you do, untap all of the creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So that's 2 triggers our commander, 2 undaunted cards. I'm undaunted by this. Anyway, we're playing green. We have a lot of lands, generally. Morag, Fury of Akun, is a 6 mana 6/6 Minotaur Warrior. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it has attacked this turn. Okay, that's pretty good. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase or an additional combat phase after this phase. At the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. So we just keep playing lands in our main phase. Boom, boom, boom. Or potentially play fetch lands. That's even better. We can get multiple combats in a turn, and our creatures are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger for each combat phase there is. It's so, so good. What a massive threat this guy is. And it works wonderfully with our commander. Ton of undaunted creatures. So there you go. Those are my selections for this commander. Really, really quite cool. And I think it's a nice build around that you can go for. But, you know, please do tell me how you'd build this guy. I'm really quite interested to find out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Toodles.